Hi, I'm Savannah Jones, and this is DMG's Bootstraps in Business. And today I'm speaking with Brandy Henry all about things social media. Did you know social media doesn't have to be exhausting, frustrating, or a time suck? Maybe you're just getting started with your social media strategies, or maybe you're deep into your social media plan. Well, Brandy is here with a ton of tips and advice that will help you sort it all out. Brandy, thanks so much for making the time to join me today. So let's just start with you. I know whenever we're in a conversation, you meet somebody out here, the first thing you do is, what do you do and where are you from? We know you work with social media, and we're going to jump into that. But where are you from? And let's talk about your childhood and high school and college, and then kind of how you got on this path.
Oh, sure. Well, thank you for asking. It's a pleasure to be here. So I actually grew up in LA, in Los Angeles, in a coastal town called San Pedro. And most of it know it as where the Love Boat would supposedly leave from every week. And you know, I had a great time in LA. I growing up there, I loved it. I loved being in LA Unified School District and all that I got to do there, and the diversity and the sunshine, of course, the beaches. And then as I got older for college, I realized I wanted something different and fell in love with my first visit to Portland and ended up coming to school up here. I loved the fresh air, or I should say my asthma loved the fresh air. And um, I don't mind the rain, and ended up dating who would be my now husband. And after a few years after school, working in corporate accounting, I realized it wasn't quite what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So by then, my husband and I were married and going to school for graduate school at night. So we decided let's flip this around and go to grad school full time. And so we ended up at Clemson in South Carolina for a few years when we went to graduate school, and that was a great experience as well. And then I ended up switching careers into higher ed, and I've really enjoyed working with adult students or young adult students, and really enjoyed teaching. And that, that was a great path for a long time. And as social media came around, I enjoyed it. I never had a problem turning it off or getting sucked into drama, etc. And I eventually found myself being the point person for friends and family to help them learn or help show them what buttons do what and help them feel more comfortable. And as my boys got older and didn't need me quite so much, I thought maybe I could start charging for that service. And hence a business was born. And so most of my business for the first few years was teaching. I still do that. But I also do done for you social media. And my whole premise is that engaging is what matters most. That if you're a service-based business or a locally based business, most of us are going to not become super famous on social media, but rather we can make a difference and have a presence and help our business. But we need to engage and show up and be a person that others can start to relate to.
So why don't you just explain that just a little bit more? Because, and we'll jump into other aspects of social media, but really being present and making your product or your business relatable, and
Absolutely.
and reaching back out through the computer to touch someone.
Right. So most of us with quote unquote smaller businesses, brick and mortar businesses that are just around the neighborhood, or we're doing services for clients in our area. We're there to show them what it's like to work with us. What would it be like to go and use you as a dentist or as an attorney or my financial planner or my neighborhood chiropractor, etc. What would it be like to come into your office and experience your services? And that has more to do with showing people through your voice, through the images you're using, through your highlighting your services and what you focus on, what makes you different than your local competitors, what makes you stand apart. And that's different than branding for a big, say, book launch or a cookie company that needs to sell many, many, many thousands of cookies a day, whereas when you're selling a service or more yourself, really think about how is that other person who's viewing you on social media starting to experience you, because whether we recognize it or not, we're unconsciously kind of sniffing people out while we're on social media, including the businesses that pop up in front of us.
And when somebody's just getting started, I did go to your blogcast page,
Mhm.
and you have a great amount of topics there, and really from DIYers to somebody having a social media team. I mean, there's something for everyone. But when somebody's just getting started, this is the novice,
Mhm.
and they know
Yeah.
they think they need to be somewhere, and they just don't know where to get started. What does that look like? Because there are different types of social media, and there
Mhm.
are obviously different platforms, and they all do something different.
Yeah. Well, first, always take a deep breath because there is no way to be on every social media platform and do all of them well and still, run your business and focus on your expertise and why you started the business. And so I always want to start with, let's just take a deep breath and realize that we're going to pick one social media platform and do that one well, and then move on. And how do we pick that one? Well, I like to find out if my client is more or less B2B or business to business, or are they business to consumer? And sometimes they're both. For example, a client who does both commercial window treatments and residential window treatments. So, we're looking at the business to business first for LinkedIn. We're looking at business to consumer they chose with Facebook, and just do those two well and leave it at that and speak to the audiences that are there based on how you can solve their problem or provide a good solution, and that it will be easy and a pleasant experience working with you. And so that's what we do, is we find out where are your potential clients or patients or customers, and what are your skill set, or what can you afford to do well, how much time if they're doing it themselves. And then we go from there and train based on the answers to those questions.
I love that you say you don't have to do them all, because
Right.
right away people think, well, my friend, I'm on everything, or I read
Mhm.
everything, or I go to everything. And so you feel like you have to be on everything. But if you can just pick one, pick your lane, and get
Mhm.
really good at that, then maybe you can grow from there. But
Yes.
getting started, there's a lot of anxiety, and people get very anxious. How do they know what to say? I mean, that's the next thing, right?
Mhm.
I see funny people on here and smart people on here. What do I do?
Right. That is a really good question. Um, I always want people to think about, how do they want to be perceived, or how do they want someone to feel when they're working with you. Start with that on social media. How do you want people to feel when you comment on one of their posts, or when you post something about your business or your services? What is it that you're wanting them to absorb from an experience with you? Because that's going to start to set the relationship or the expectation of what it's like to come into your place of business. And so when you're thinking about just starting and you know which platform you're going to go with, just go play, get to know people, watch what they're doing, comment as if you were going to, run into them again, and you want to leave a good impression. Just congratulate them for their kid's excellent soccer game, or simply be a good neighbor and get to know the platform over time, get to see who's there, and you'll start to notice that the platform also gets to know you. And you'll start seeing more and more of the type of content and the people you engage with. And by engage, I mean you click a like or you make a comment. You'll start seeing more and more of similar, either the exact similar people or the same content over time. And no social media platform will explode your phone, or just play and press the buttons and see what happens. It's all can be undone, and just get to know that platform.
And is there in the professional world, what makes what's a big difference between Facebook and LinkedIn? Because sometimes people don't really know, and they're both very popular. But if you're just getting started and you go to Facebook and your kids go to Facebook and your cousins go to Facebook, and that's kind of how you keep track. What is the difference? Because I feel like between Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, those are probably the three top that people are using when you're just getting started in a professional sense.
Right. Right.
What's that route look like?
Yeah. Excellent questions. Sometimes it's good to understand the lingo. So on Facebook, when you open up a Facebook account, that's your profile. And it's kind of you as a person, just who you are personally. This is generally speaking. And then for your business, it's often that you'll open a Facebook business page. And so some of those semantics can get annoying, but they matter. So your profile, it can be just you and your family and who you interact with, your cousins, your former high school friends, etc. And then your business page can be where you present yourself and your services professionally. Some people do it all on one, and there's pros and cons to both. With Facebook, the big difference from profile from LinkedIn is Facebook is, I don't know how many times bigger of an audience than LinkedIn. That doesn't mean you're going to get in front of them all. It just means that it's huge. With LinkedIn, your audience is much more targeted. LinkedIn quickly figures out if you're there to find a job or offer a job, or you're there to network. And then your experience on LinkedIn starts to look more and more like a networker or somebody who's trying to hire. My clients are mostly there to network, which means to find potential referral partners, potential clients. And so on LinkedIn, it kind of flips around. The profile, your basic LinkedIn account, tends to be both your business and you. So it's combined, but there's a business focus. It's about congratulating people, looking at what other people are doing professionally, sharing what you're doing professionally. And sometimes we do also do the LinkedIn page, where that is the business page, but that can come along later and can take a little longer to get to, because it takes a little while to build up an audience, build up what LinkedIn calls connections. On Facebook, those are called friends. And so again, all this lingo can be important to remember. And so those are some of the big differences. Facebook tends to be everybody all over the planet, everywhere. And LinkedIn really focuses more on networkers, people there to look for professional connections, professional solutions to professional problems. And it targets much more of that audience.
So you brought up a good point. We don't instantly have a lot of followers. It takes time. What does that look like to somebody who just said something super funny and had a really cute picture and they only got 3 likes? What does it look like? What does that time span look like? Like realistically, what can you expect?
Right. It does. It takes time and effort. It takes showing up. And just as we would go to networking groups or business luncheons and shake hands, when we get on a social media platform as a business, we're going to have to reach out on LinkedIn and send connection requests and introduce ourselves. And it takes time to find those right people. On Facebook, it's starting with building up the friends and sending out friend requests and accepting friend requests. And of course, you can be picky. You don't need to accept and extend to everybody, and nor should you. And it takes time. Unless you're already famous in the world, you're not going to be famous on social media overnight. It's going to take some time and effort, and that's okay. And it can take time and effort, but it doesn't have to happen overnight.
So when you're consulting a lot of do-it-yourselfers.
Yes.
So people who may have been doing social media wrong, and there probably is no wrong way, but it just hasn't been working to the extent that they wanted it to work. So what does that look like when they reach out to you? let's say, I've got a business and I
Mhm.
get LinkedIn's where I want to go. How do I now contact you, and what does that process look like, and where and how far do I go? Like, do you
Right.
just, you give me you give me the roadmap and then you say, see ya?
We always work together. So my background as a teacher comes through as an educator when I'm working with a client. I'm working to empower them. If they're coming to me because they do want to do it themselves and effectively, then that's what we work on so that we do so many sessions so then they're move on and graduate to the next level. So with a client who comes to me and we know that LinkedIn's the place to be, we always take a look at where is their skill set? Do they know how to find the right people who are potential clients? Do they know how to post? Do they know how to respond professionally? Do they know how to navigate the platform? I have worked with many clients who have built very successful businesses marketing in other ways. There's lots of ways to grow a business, and social media is simply a tool that can be helpful to build that business. But maybe they've been using flyers or networking, or they got really lucky and had the right location at the right time. And now they're ready for social media. They're ready to use a new tool. And we go in and we learn how to navigate the platform, what to say, who to engage with, how to sometimes how to block people, and who to respond to, who not to, and just how to just get comfortable there. It's no different than when we learn to drive. This is a tool that helps us get somewhere we want to be. And there's no shame in not knowing what buttons to click, or what phrase to use, or what's a hashtag, or how do I tag somebody, what the heck's the difference, Brandy? And that's what we go through and we do together, and we get to a point where somebody's eyes start to glaze over and we're like, okay, just use those tools for a while.
Do you step into the advertising end of it all at all, or is it just the front end?
Yeah, so it's just what I like to say, just all the things you can do for free with a social media platform. Once you want to start paying for ads, which are a great tool, I refer out to ad experts, and I refer out to those who are professionals and know how those algorithms work, who know how those lookalike audiences work, and have all those tools and expertise. That's not my area of expertise. So
Because
I,
that
oh,
because there is a difference. Because there is a
yeah,
difference going online and posting, and then seeing the little pop up thing for the ad and saying, "Oh yeah, I've got
yeah,
$10."
exactly. They're very different, and they're different investments. They're different investment of treasure or time. And sometimes when someone comes to me for social media, what they really mean is they want ads, and we're able to figure that out and send them to somebody more appropriate. And sometimes it is that they want content in their platforms managed. It really is one of those early conversation pieces. What does somebody mean by they want to be on social media?
Right. And I like that you, saying this is a tool.
Mhm.
These are the things you can do free. And
Mhm.
yes, you can do it yourself. What do you suggest before we take off as a jump off point for somebody
Mhm.
right now?
As a jump off point is to think about the results you want from the effort or the money you put into it. If you're looking for something that sometimes somebody will come to me and they'll say, in 6 weeks, I have this event. I'm like, that's an ad campaign. That's a paid, you want fast results. You want to get in front of a lot of eyeballs quickly. And then we always focus on that and find the right person for them. And it remind me the second half of the question.
Well, just that, like, well, just the jump off point for somebody
Oh,
who
yes.
is just starting out, and just how they just jump on in, and what that looks like.
Yes. So what is it that you want out of it? And how much time are you willing to put into it? And if you realize that you don't want to put the amount of time it would take, then let's talk about maybe having some ads run in another area. Sometimes people have Google ads running, and then they come to me to help them with their Facebook or LinkedIn presence, so that when someone goes to kind of look them up or kind of sniff them out, they have a presence there that's effective and they can respond appropriately to the people. But there's still an ad campaign being run by a Google Ads expert. And so sometimes those can marry pretty well. And it's great when that Google Ads expert and I are already colleagues and can communicate as to what is best for the client or what the goals are, or their Facebook ads expert. So it all depends on, think about what do you want out of this, and can you get that with what you're willing to put in?
Yes, because as a social media spectator, it's one thing to scroll, and it's another to figure out a content calendar and be consistent and relevant and engaging over time.
Over time, exactly. It can, there's the joke that you don't go into business to be a bookkeeper. Well, now most of us don't go into business to be a social media expert. We go into business for another reason. And then there's these areas that are sometimes best left to someone else, or you can do yourself to a point until you get so busy or you realize your expertise is better spent elsewhere. Because yes, it can take a while, or it can be a lot of fun. I know some realtors who just kill it on Facebook, but they consider it like their Netflix. They enjoy it. They love it. It's something that just doesn't feel like an effort to them. And that's great.
Some people just have the talent. They just do. Just in it. They have the writer's skills, or it just comes naturally. So I'm going to put all your contact information on the show notes. But before we go, do you deal with, I know you deal with like teaching and then walking people through. Do you also manage people's accounts? Do you do that? Because, this is great and I just learned a whole bunch of things, but I still don't want to do it.
Yes. Yeah, that's fair. You should know what you don't want to do and know what you're hiring somebody for. Yes, I do manage, or I create content and manage platforms for businesses that don't want to do it themselves any longer. They're at a point where they also don't want their admin or their office manager to do it either. They want it off their desks as well. And so, yes, that is a service I provide, and one I quite enjoy doing.
Well, Brandy, thank you so much for all the help today and all the tips and advice. So hopefully this will help us get through some of the processes and some of the platforms and get us closer to engagement and decent content and getting, to the other side of that.
Well, I hope so. Thank you, Savannah. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you, as always, for checking out DMG's Bootstraps and Business. If you'd like to find out more about our guests, DMG, or these podcasts, just check out the show notes. Thank you.